Hi, I'm Michael Cohen. I am the attorney representing my client, the Miss Universe organization, in the case of Miss Universe v. Monnin. Essentially, my client is an American-based organization owned by Donald J. Trump, which holds an annual pageant across the world, which in part is funded by generous sponsorships. The court determined that my client lost a $5 million deal, a sponsorship deal, due to the comments made by Ms. Conan on both Facebook and during an interview with the Today Show. As for the factual background, a quick rundown of the timeline of events is pretty much on the 3rd of June 2012, a Miss USA pageant took place where Monnin alleges that the Miss Florida contestant told her that she saw a piece of paper in the back that listed the top 5 placings in order before they were actually judged, alleging therefore that the 2012 Miss USA pageant was fixed. The following day, on the 4th of June 2012, Monnin emailed her resignation and posted on Facebook vaguely explaining the reasons for her resignation. The next day, on June 5th, 2012, Monnin posted again on Facebook detailing her claims and allegations about wrongdoings and corruption on the part of my client. She then went on the Today Show the day after Donald J. Trump was on the Today Show speaking about the issues, and she defamed my client yet again. As a result of this, per her contract for the statements that she was making, mediation would be the next course of action, followed by potentially arbitration. On June 25th, 2012, Monnin failed to partake in said mediation for her statements, and as a result of that, on the 5th of November of 2012, Monnin and her counsel were not present for arbitration. On December 10th, 2012, arbitrator Katz issued a $5 million arbitrator reward to be paid to my client from Ms. Conan. The basic dispute is essentially that we believe that Monnin's comments were defamatory, untrue, and caused serious monetary damage to my client. Monnin claims that my client is guilty of rigging the 2012 Miss Universe pageant. As for the actual legal process, well, an arbitration was filed on behalf of my client. An arbitration was then awarded in favor of my client, and Monnin then brought said arbitrary reward for judicial review, which led to my client reading the appeal of the arbitrary award. The legal question presented is essentially whether or not Monnin's publicly made statements were defamatory and resulted in loss of potential gain for my client. The stakeholders in this actual lawsuit were essentially the Miss Universe organization, my client, and Monnin, the defendant. The ethical dilemmas are pretty much one of two. If, in fact, my client is correct, then Monnin would be facing the ethical dilemma of saying things of which she knows are not true. If, in fact, Miss Monnin is correct and my client is incorrect, then my client would be facing the ethical dilemma of violating rules. My client's argument essentially was that Monnin's statements are unfounded and false. Monnin's statements resulted in financial loss for my client, and Monnin is in breach of contract for her statements. The opposition's arguments essentially are that the arbitrator overstepped his authority, the arbitrator disregarded law, and that Monnin, in fact, was not even aware the arbitration hearing was taking place due to her lawyer not informing her that the arbitration date was approaching or what the arbitration date even was. As for case law, statutory principles, or any sort of law that played a role in this case, the Federal Arbitration Act says that there are only 4 ways that an arbitration award can be vacated. The first is where the award was procured by corruption, fraud, or just simply undue means in general. The second is where there is basically, there's corruption on the part of at least one of the arbitrators. If there's only one arbitrator, then just that one arbitrator. But many cases there are 2 arbitrators. The third is where the arbitrators were guilty of misconduct and refusing to postpone the hearing upon sufficient cause shown, things such as that. The fourth is where the arbitrators exceed their powers or simply execute them in an improper manner. But according to Jock v. Sterling Jewelers Incorporated, there was a ruling that there is also a 5th reason, which is that an arbitral decision could be vacated when an arbitrator has exhibited a manifest did disregard for the law. So basically, if it's manifested that they have a disregard for the law, then, when they were awarding said arbitrary award, then the award can be vacated. So just some facts supporting my client's position. Monnin made negative public statements about my client and made allegations about corruption within my client's organization on both Facebook and the Today Show. British Petroleum BP withdrew their potential sponsorship of the 2013 Miss Universe pageant and cited Monnin's comments as the reason. We were in talks with British Petroleum to host the 2013 Miss Universe pageant in the Gulf Shore region, a region that was very recently disrupted by storms and had a lot of damage done. So the idea was that by having the Miss Universe pageant there, a lot of tourism would be brought in, and with tourism comes an economic boost to help that environment recover from their losses. As for a legal analysis, the court used its limited review within the scope that the circuit's precedent declared. And the court used the law and removed all emotion or moral opposition from their decision-making process and looked at this on as rational of a basis and as legal of a basis as they could. And the final decision was pretty much the court's ruling that the arbitration award stands, that Monnin owes my client $5 million, that Monnin's comments were defamatory, and the court found no actual breach of contract since Monnin technically resigned. And why is this important? Well, this shows that employees and former employees have to watch what they say about organizations, and that organizations can in fact defend themselves, their reputation, and monetary pursuits from defamation. And it showed that there can be heavy consequences for statements made. Thank you.